Good afternoon, everybody. Hello. I'm Ian. This is Shruti.
Hi, I'm Shruti.
Anirudh, I'm the concept artist.
So we're the art team of Nodding Heads on Raji. So what we're going to do is we're going to go through Pure F. So it's not a PowerPoint presentation, so if everyone likes PowerPoint presentations, I'm sorry. We've decided not to go for that. Purely because we can just put everything in on one. And it's absolutely fantastic for us just to navigate through there. And we're actually going to go from the very, very beginning of our journey. And that was, we were initially going to do this 2D. Okay?
So for whoever who doesn't know, Raji is an action-adventure game.
Closer.
So, and it's set, so our whole universe is set in medieval Rajasthan. And we'll also show you the trailer at the end of this. So initially when we started Raji, it was, so basically our whole inspiration is games like Bastion, Transistor. So we had, so our art style in our head was kind of like hand-painted art style, and yet we wanted to portray the beautiful architecture of India and the colorful, so it's kind of like every environment that you see in the game, it's kind of treated like an painting. So we had a lot of inspiration from the old Indian miniature paintings, so that's how is the direction that we wanted to head. So we'll start off by showing you how initially we had an idea to do it exactly the same way, like kind of Bastion and Transistor, where we thought of doing it in tile-based system, but how we progressed through our journey and how we moved into what we are at right now. So,
okay, right. So initially, I was going to be modelling all assets, and Shruti would be doing paint-overs. But we found out quite early on that was going to kill us. And it was just impossible. So let's just go to the very beginning. So this is a max. The sketches, yeah. Whereabouts? So there's going to be lots of zooming in and out. Okay, so hopefully no one will vomit. Which one do you want? These ones, okay.
So when we first started, so these were the sketches that I did initially for Raji. So our game designer did a whole blockout level of the prototype, basically where we're going to start from. So I took that base blockout geo, and from there I started sketching out ideas how I wanted each arena to look like. So these were the sketches done, and how we were trying to figure out how we're going to achieve that in tile system. So that's when Ian came in and started modeling all these initial sketches.
Okay. So from this, it's absolutely fantastic because you can look and you can actually start breaking it all down. So all the columns and what would be the stained glass windows and all the arches. And if another reason why we were going to go for 2D and just simply go for rendered assets is you don't have to worry about poly count. Okay, and but like we said, the pros and cons between 2D and 3D is with 3D you can actually rotate that asset 360 degrees and you can reuse that asset multiple times. Whereas if it's just one piece of 2D art, that's it. It's just once. So the variety is down to Shrew. Okay? So she'll be up all night, basically. Okay? So, yeah. So, Shrew was like doing all these beautiful pieces. And then to envisage that in the 3D world, we went to, script. This is the neat version of the layout from the designer.
So
okay.
That's the tile, the block out of the whole area.
The whole level. So we've actually stayed true to the actual layout. And what's also important is scale. You have to have scale. The small one here is Raji. This is the average height of a male. around about 1.8 meters. Raji in the game is 1.5. Okay, so we needed that scale all the way through. It's paramount. So no matter what video game you're working on, scale is the first thing that you have to look at. Okay, so then just scrolling out further and further. So from this layout, which is all named as well, because we're that organised, we went down and then we started finding images that interested us. So it's like, how do we want the beginning of this to look? What's the story behind Raji? Where has she come from? How has she gotten there? There's 5 W's, which are?
Why, where, and what. So everything that we looked at.
There's 2 more. There's 2 more.
When?
When? What? Where?
What I did say.
Yeah. All right.
So
Ignore
everything
that
that we approached, we always asked ourselves those questions that, why is she here? And what's the background? What had happened here? So initially we thought, so this is the ruin area that if any one of you has already played our prototype, the demo level. So this is the ruined temple area where the level starts. So it's after the war. It's after a storm has happened and there's drizzle of rain. So all these things need to be portrayed in that environment. So all the images or the mood board that we collected, the colors, the architecture, or the small little things that after war we had, everything that we wanted to be there, we collected all these images to give us an idea, and so we all are in the same picture. So we all know what we are actually looking at to create.
And since I've never been to Rajasthan, the journey through Google was fantastic, right? What I will say about the Hindu architecture, especially when it comes to temples, is it's insanely detailed. Insane, and it's a craft that is going to be lost in generations, if not already. And this is something, I love architecture. When you go from like the medieval Europe all the way through, maybe not America, because they're very young. I'm not saying that to discredit Americans, but that's just the way it is. And we just want to encapsulate a small piece of India in this, because quite frankly, nothing has been done to date, as far as we're aware. What's the latest? There's not Far Cry. There's Far Cry and
Uncharted.
Uncharted.
Yeah, Uncharted.
Yeah. Far Cry?
Far Cry was the first one. Far Cry 4. Yeah.
I said that. Ex-students. Okay. So, like Shru says, is that all the way through the level, we wanted to just put like things of interest, what we liked, what's going to appeal, and tell a story, and telling a story through the environment, because the environment in itself is a character, and that's the way I've always looked at environments, and make them asymmetrical, not symmetrical, because you're always going to get bloody lost in them. But make them iconic as well, because it's like with the Trigger Temple area that we did, and with all the deers there, and they're absolutely fantastic. The bridge going towards that area as well. Play with perspective. So we got the bridge, and we just literally put a deformer on and just shrunk it in. So therefore, it looks like at one angle it's obviously larger, middle section smaller. So then you're playing with scale, optical illusions. And that's what, in some forts in India, that they did in the medieval times. So you get a history lesson as well. Okay.
Move on to...
Which one? Where do you want to go now?
I guess 3D, why we moved on to that.
Okay. So as you can see, we've got more. Look at this lot. You imagine modelling all that, right? And you're going to see it for about 2 seconds, aren't you?
And so also our game is isometric, so that's to our designer. But so we had to put a lot of effort to build this, and in isometric, in that particular angle, there are a lot of things you'll see, you'll not see. So we had to think about the camera as well. So, yeah.
So from that point of view, yeah, you just literally bake it into the geometry that way.
To the environments.
Environments, whereabouts? Do you want to take over?
No.
3D?
Yeah.
Oh, sorry, yeah. Oh, yeah, sorry. Getting a bit ahead of myself now. So, going back to the bit at the beginning with regards to the 2D section, we just want to show you quickly how we progressed. Now, this is the iconic arch, right? And that's what Shruti painted. I modelled it. Didn't have to worry about UVs, which was absolutely wonderful. And then Shruti did paint over on that. And it's just to encapsulate the mood, the feel, the time of day, etc., etc. You know, wear and tear. And so we encountered problems. And I thought when I rendered these out that our designer wouldn't do things like this to me, but he did. He started using them in a way that I didn't know that he could use them. And then things weren't matching. And I thought, oh God, I'm going to have to do loads of work. And also, I was baking out with AO reflective. So you can see there, on this side, it differs. Yeah?
So we need to have the assets to be seamless, which was not happening because we were baking it out with AO. So if we actually painted this asset, we had to redo the whole process. So these were the cons that of using 2D was helped us pushing away from 2D and going to 3D.
This is a really good example as well. And I was just pulling my hair out. I mean, I've got a few more grey hairs now since, but, you know, thanks to Abby. And then I turned it all on himself. I was like, you bastard. Anyway, so we got that. And then there was this section. I'll just move it for you. So as you can see, we laid it up.
So since the character would be actually inside that arch and would be walking back and forth from the pillars, so we had to separate even the elements within one particular asset. So basically, it's the layers of different 2D arch so that the character can walk back and forth of that particular asset. So we have to break down the pillar, the top bit, the base, the other area. So it was a lot of job, time taking with the kind of the art style we wanted to achieve was, we couldn't have finished what we finished right now. So
No, and this just gives you a quick example in Unreal. We liked the third person view, but the designer didn't. I wanted to punch him. And this is another good example, because I was saying to some of the others, I'd actually, this is in Max, and I rendered out at different angles, because we were trying to see which angle was the best. And I think the bottom one is 35 degrees, the top one's 45. And I got things mixed up, and I basically had to re-render everything. Yeah, it was a lot of work. It was a very costly mistake. So,
and we were also experimenting with Unity and Unreal. So we and our team. So also, when you are working in games, you need to see what your team is, the strength of the team is in. You need to be realistic about that. So our programmer has already worked in Unreal, and most of our tech artists was also experienced with Unreal. So that was a better choice for us. So hence, also we are actually predominantly a 3D artist, even though we have a base of 2D, but we are 3D artists. So that was a better call for us to change from 2D to 3D, and to change the engine as well.
Yeah. Those calls have got to be made early on, and stick with them, because it's time, it's money, it's it is that cliche. It's simple as that. You don't want to start having to rehash and go back into doing exactly the same thing into a different engine. Shall we go over to the concept art?
Yep.
Okay. Do you want to go over the environment stuff first?
Yeah.
Okay. So, just to, I'm going to hand it over to Annie here, and let me just grab these sections, these ones. Okay.
Zoom in.
Yeah. Okay. Scenic view.
Yeah, it's there, up
Where?
there.
Oh, sorry. Go on then, jump to.
So when I joined the team, the best thing was that all the groundwork had already been done. The mood boards were there, and the description and the brief of what they wanted was pretty clear to me. So I had to not do that much of research, and I knew exactly what they wanted and how I had to deliver to that. And with every brief, I decided to try different techniques, because making a thumbnail, there's also a process in making a thumbnail. You can't just go with just basically using the normal procedures or just making it silhouettes. You need to experiment, because when you experiment with thumbnails, that's how you get abstraction. And with abstraction, you're able to find design. The shapes that I might have not been able to think normally with sketches, I got those shapes with abstraction. So this was one of the first pieces that I made for Raji, and it was, when I saw the vibe of the game, I wanted the concept art to also be reminiscent of old paintings that you see in Jaipur forts. So that's why I kept things very loose. Sometimes I would start with just photos, sometimes I would just make a sketch, and then I would lay in some bold strokes and make it a little loose, so that it didn't lose that energy. Because when you keep on rendering things, it loses the energy.
Sorry, it's over here.
Yeah.
I'll do it. Come on, get out of the way.
So this was another one of the second pieces that I did. And with Rajasthan, like mostly when you talk about mythology, it's like we've always, in mythology, there is nothing that you can do fresh. Because the designs, everyone sees a design, but we haven't explored culture yet. India has, like, culture is so diverse and there's so much design in culture, even in Rajasthan. So the first level was inspired by Pink City. Now this level is inspired by Udaipur. And in Udaipur you will find different architectural styles. It's like called the Venice of India, because it has man-made lakes. And this level was based around lakes. You have a giant fish, and Raji is feeding her lotus petals. So to capture the vibe, Udaipur fits perfectly in that. So the architectural style is of Udaipur. We might move to Jaisalmer also, where the predominant stone is sandstone. So that is the essence. You'll experience that essence in Raji. And the second one, this is the place in Rajasthan called Chand Bauri, and it has 1,000 steps. So, and we wanted this in the game because it is so cool. A player wants to go inside the 100 steps. He wants to fight monsters in that, but it would have become boring otherwise. So we added a mythological element, a fantasy element, just to spice things up. So now this is a temple of monkeys. So now you'll find thousands of monkeys, thousands of steps, thousands of monkeys, and you're going and fighting demons and doing all that. So this is gonna bring out the player experience.
Why now?
Yeah. And this is again, instead we started off as a Shiva temple, but then Shiva is again common. Then we thought, why not see other forms of Shiva? Then we came across Natraj. Okay, Natraj, we can make a Natraj temple. It's a god of dance. So we can have music that goes along with this. And for these pieces, I was using different techniques. This, I use a 3D base, I was using 3D coat. I made a quick base, I transferred that in Keyshot. I adjusted some lighting, took a render, bashed some photos, and added paints.
Just want to jump in on that one. With regards to dance, what's the martial art, the Indian martial art?
Kalripayat.
We wanted to have that in, because I saw that and I thought, that is cool. That is really, really cool. So if you could just imagine Raji, who's been an absolute master in that martial art, and embracing dance throughout to bring out the culture, it would just add so much more, rather than just seeing the your generic hack and slash. I'm just going to beat this, button mashing. So we just really wanted to have and create something different.
Also with this particular environment, so we had completely not thought about exactly what we wanted to do in this particular environment, but we got loads of idea after he came up with the concept. So if you see, there is basically, you'll see the tail of a big monster there, which we had not thought about it. It's something that he came up with in the concept, and that gave Avichal, our game designer, a lot of ideas that we could have. So it's not just like combat in this game, you'll have a lot of environmental puzzles, because you're going to unfold a lot of story in this game, because it has a lore and a lot of information that you'll know about Raji's life. Why is she doing this and what's happening in this universe? So all these things will be actually coming alive when you solve these puzzles in the environment. And these ideas we didn't get before he did the concept. So a lot of things come back, like, just happen after the concept art came in. So that was a great teamwork between like all of us.
If you could zoom in. So sometimes it's not about rendering or making the most beautiful images ever. Sometimes it's more about design. So here you could see I have added some bells. So this would add so much in the game, when you could hear the sounds of those bells, when wind is going through them. So it all becomes, you have to think of an experience that you're giving to the player, not just making pretty pictures. It's not about making pictures. Concept art is not about pretty pictures. It's about concept. It's about idea. It's about design.
I thought it was.
Just absolutely. Yeah. Again, this was inspired by Pink City. So we'll have even the windows. You see, this is going to give in the element of Rajasthan. This is how people will know this is Rajasthan, because you have to see these things. You have to experience. I went out there. I clicked photos, so that I can show it to the team also, and just for my personal library also observe how things look at, because this is what is going to take it to the next level, to add more realism to it.
And also, like, our game is also targeting at the Western audience, because we want to showcase India to the Western audience as it's never been shown, because you will never see a game will actually show architecture like this, these windows, or like Indian temples or things like this. And so we wanted, and people are interested in games with this kind of background and this kind of universe, and it's just that somebody had to do it, and we thought this was a great thing to start for.
We didn't have to do it. We wanted to do it. Okay. All right. And from my personal point of view as well, being a Westerner and being involved in the team, there's an awful lot of these stories that have been told to me, and it is just fantastic. The wealth of storytelling and the myths and so on. It's just fantastic, and you just want to delve. And we're literally just scratching the surface, and just want to get further and further in there. And like Shruti was saying, it's proven. Westerners are loving this. And it's just, and from our point of view, it's just fantastic. It's really gratifying.
I just want to speak on this. If you see this lotus kind of a shape, now this is something that you will find in the game a lot. So it is always good to have this design language or shape language constant. And this is like a diya, and it was a small diya, and I thought, why not increase the size of it? Why not make it a huge diya and add little diyas in it, and just when the wind blows, it has little petals on it, and those lotus petals would just, move as Raji moves. So again, I'm thinking about the experience that the game would give to the player.
We actually did animate this as well.
Yeah, we made a...
So it's on our Facebook on that one. But it's like you've got all the petals coming in there, and it's just beautiful, absolutely gorgeous. Let me just zoom out. Okay, where do you want to go now?
Can you move to the environments, to 3D environments?
Yep. Oh God. Sorry, excuse me. Right. This one. Yep.
We don't have the table out. Okay, let's zoom out of this.
Let me just see. Sorry about this. Hang on.
No, just okay. Just zoom into any one of them.
Right.
Tissue ground areas.
Which one is that?
Yeah.
Yeah.
So, when I first started working on the level with the 3D assets, I must say I was lost. I was literally lost. I spent like 2 weeks. I kept on doing the block out, and I was just not getting the look of the environment that I wanted. And mostly I was given this constraint. I had few assets of modular assets that I can make and recreate the whole environment. And whereas in my mind I had this beautiful environment which is unique each section that you go in. But since we were a smaller team, we had to be realistic about what we can achieve. So I had to think about how many assets that I can actually make and still have the uniqueness in all the arenas and yet create whatever you see in this particular image, that this arena. So this is where in our demo Raji gets her threshold. This is the threshold grunt area, that's what we call. And so basically the base is a unique asset that I've created. So unique asset is something that you cannot reuse again in the game. So that's one is a unique asset, and rest all the pillars. So I created just one section of an arch pillar, which I've broken it down and recreated few 3-4 variations of that. And so if you look closely into that small arena at top.
Where? Which one?
This one.
Over here.
Yeah. So basically I wanted to showcase that that's where the Trishul is being given. I wanted to tell a story. So in that wall there is this little painting of basically it's Durga with, it's an attack thing which she's with a bow and arrow, and there's a lot of demon around it. So this, if you actually seeing all these so we really like smaller details to be put in, so smaller story to be told in one particular art. So that's what I was aiming at. So so when I created this arena, I wanted that broken Trishul to be there on top, and actually the team didn't notice that that was there because the camera was more zoomed in. And then our designer, while placing other stuff, said, wait a minute, you have a broken Trishul there and you made this. So I said, yes, I wanted it to be there, and said, okay, let me just zoom out the camera and actually show it. It's, have that element in the game. And so this is how I usually would approach something, that I would take the block out and then so I didn't have much time to actually sit and sketch all the arena, but I would start blocking out in 3D, and that's how I would go about creating any arena in the game.
Is everyone familiar with the process of blocking out in 3D, getting the assets into Engine? Are we all familiar? Not familiar? Put your hands up. So don't be shy. It's not a trick question. Right, so there's a few of you that don't know what we're talking about.
So
right.
What a blockout is basically, you have your game designer who does just literally takes cubes and places it throughout the level and says, okay, this is where this is going to happen, and exactly this, but in 3D, okay? And so you can basically, the designer and the coder can start their work already. They can start having the basics of the game, and they can do their work, and I can take that basic layout and start doing my work, that is the 3D. That's actually building the level that is going to go inside the game. So I take that block out, bring it to Maya, and remodel the stuff so it matches exactly where it's going to go into the game.
Okay. So for those that don't know, just quickly, right? Just imagine this is an asset that can be utilized 360, right? And then we just grab that, put it into engine, scale it down, or whatever. Normally you build everything to scale, and then just position it. Job done. Move on. Yeah? Dead easy.
Easy peasy.
Yeah? Everyone's going, no, you lying bastard. Right? Okay. Where do you want to go now, Shru?
Probably, what about the teaser? We have the teaser.
Which one? That one?
Palace, yeah.
That one?
So this is the first environment that we created in the game. So this whole area is made out of 3 assets.
4, I think.
3 or 4 assets.
1, 2, 3, 4,
Yeah.
5,
So
6.
that arch, so what we do is if we are reusing something, we make a unique texture. So something that's more broken, something that's more weathering on it. So that's how we reuse something. So this particular arena is in palace interior. And so this was the first asset I was actually texturing for Raji, and I had a look in mind, but again, it's like I'm experimenting with stuff. So for Raji, I've just used 3D coat, and I do stuff in Photoshop as well. But sometimes I get a base of a texture in Quixel. So those of you who don't know, Quixel is a software where you can make your own material. You can add it on your objects and then bring it into the engine. So I use Quixel and get a base texture. And from that I would be adding, so if you see all these details on the pillars, all these are hand painted in 3D coat. So these I've painted them, so that's exactly how I've approached most of the assets in the game.
And then because I'm quite pedantic with not having repeats in an environment, which is very difficult, each pillar is rotated. It's one asset, meaning it's one object. Okay? So if you've got the same texture on one column and you've got 10 of them going down, you'll see the same repeating pixels. Right? Best way to get rid of that? Rotate 45 degrees. Next one. Degree.
But also what we did is we did for that particular pillar, we had kind of like a different weathering on this side had a different weathering, on the other side had a different detail, though the base is the same. So even if you rotated it around, it looked like, it's a different asset. So that's how we got through it.
So basically it's cheaper. Right? See? Okay. Where do you want to go now?
Characters.
Characters?
Yeah. Okay.
Just moving on to characters quickly. So predominantly in my career, this is my disclaimer now, okay? In 18 years, right, I've been doing environments. For this particular project, after the teaser, I went on to creating and learning ZBrush. Yeah. Those who have struggled with ZBrush will know my pain. It's not very user-friendly. And I was cursing it a lot. I generally swear a lot anyway, but, And so I said to the team, I need 4 months to learn. The team said, not a problem. 5 months went by. Nothing done. Yeah? And there's right? And then this beauty was crafted. Have we got the actual concept art from it? The Gardasura. Is it up? Ah, okay. Show this one. Right, this dude. So this concept art was done by a friend of Avi's, Gardasura. And that's all I had. Okay? So at the time, getting back into doing anatomy was interesting. I love it, but I haven't touched it for many, many years. So I had to go back to school effectively and start learning muscle structures, etc. And a fantastic artist for that is Grizzetti. Absolutely amazing guy, young man, very, very talented. Anyway, so I was learning all that kind of stuff, as well as other tutorials. And so yes, even after 18 years, I'm still learning. Okay, you never stop, especially in this industry. So what we also did with this character is we did a little key chart. And the difference that you'll see here with Godasura, and I'll admit to it now, is that he was meant to have hair. In the actual one, it doesn't, because I had trouble with hair. I did. Right? So he's bald. He's not happy, so he's more pissed off. Right? And so from there, I did a block out for our animator. Okay? He looked very attractive, as you can see. A bit self-conscious. Okay? And then from there, so the animator had that. So his workflow was not going to be hindered by me having to learn and actually model this beautiful young man. And then that was the pose that Himanshu did, actually matching the concepts, which is fantastic. I don't think I've actually got progress. Okay, we've got the ZBrush one here. Okay. I actually had to admit to Himanshu at one point that I'd make a bit of a boo-boo. Right? And that's the great thing about being in a team. You've got to communicate. Because his arms, his forearms, I don't know how it happened, but he ended up turning into an orangutan. Right? His arms were elongated. And then I confided it in Shru, and I was like, oh shit.
And by that time, our animator has already done the rigging for the base model, and he's already in the game with the animation running and doing stuff. So we had to tell him that he has to reskin his hand and might have to do something about it. But our animator is amazing. He's the coolest guy we've seen. No matter how much work you give him, no matter how much stuff you tell him, he's okay, I'll do it. Don't worry about it. So we've been really lucky.
I think it was through gritted teeth at the time. But I said to him, all right, I'll fix it. So anyway, I fixed it in about half an hour, and everything was happy, and happy families. So then, in ZBrush, this chap is around about, because this laptop is quite old, it can't push millions and millions of polys. So it's around about 6 million polys, this particular model. And that was crucifying this laptop. So I was having to try everything in order to just get as much as I could out of it. And yeah, so eventually I was able to find a workflow that suited me, that I could actually utilize each and every layer within. And then I had to take it into Max, do a low version, and then do baking, which from high to low. Now, if you don't know what baking or textures is or assets is, it's taking all that nice detail, the muscles, the rips, whatever it may be, from the high definition model, and you're putting it into a texture, a 2D image, and then that goes onto the low geo, which is unwrapped. Okay, but your saving grace is the normal map, because that's where in the Y channel the light is going to basically fake all the muscles. And then so I did numerous versions of Mr. G. Okay. Okay. And then so we've got all these different versions, variants, and then you've got the actual wireframe. Okay, so you can see there the wireframe. Yeah, so it's low geometry. Okay, so, and then this is...
Yeah, so if you back our project for a certain amount, you get Gadasura as a 3D printed model.
Actually, there's going to be two that are going to be hand painted, right? and they're very, very special because I know the artist that's going to be painting them, and he used to paint motorbikes brilliantly. Right? I wish you'd do mine. Okay, now we're just going to go through the process of Tez. So over to you, mate.
So again, I was actually handling characters for the first time, mainly creatures, because I didn't do it, and in this I wanted to explore more on the thumbnail side. So here it was me basically painting little thumbnails. These are thumbnails, but I was making detailed thumbnails because I am not a big fan of working with just black silhouettes, right? Because you can't see the entire thing. So in this also I added little value structure so that I know what is going on inside it. How, and to make a good character, it's not about, we find characters with so much armor pretty cool, but iconic characters have never been cool. There's one thing that stands out of being an iconic character. Is it this clothing? Is it something that is on his face? And with this, we were exploring so many different options. And the characters, they are inspired by Bali mythology. So Bali mythology, all these demons, they are donated with masks. And these masks are so beautiful and different. And this is what we wanted to experiment with the demons. Even with the gods, you won't see normal gods in Raji. The gods have a different style. The demons have a different style.
Okay. So from this one, just very quickly, we localized on this chap here.
Yeah. This was something cool. We wanted, because the game designer already had an idea of how the character is, how he's going to affect the gameplay, and how he wanted him to be. So this guy has to jump on from pillars to pillar, and he's going to spit acid. So this was my brief.
Okay.
And this is, I'm providing different options of body types, different details. So yeah, this was initially taking that little thumbnail and exploring it further. So okay, he can be mainly like a toad, maybe he can walk like a gorilla, or something like. So these are just ideas. Maybe he's so acidic that hair on his head are burning. And then we experiment with giving him a gullet. So whenever he is throwing acid, the gullet, it blows up and then he throws acid. So these are all ideas that we with the team, we keep. It's a back and forth process. Everyone has their ideas. Seeing a picture, you get 10 ideas and then you experiment more with that. And this, this is, Ian keeps pushing me, more variations, do it, and that brings out the best design possible. So you want to speak on it?
No, you're doing really well, mate. You carry on.
These two basically made this character maker kind of.
Yeah, face maker. We call this as a face maker. So we have different mouth, different ears, different eyes, different hair types, and all. And we were just mixing and matching.
You really made some disgusting ones. You really did. Because the thing is, it's all about exploration. You need to know. It's like you can't just go with the very one drawing or the very one same illustration. You've got to just try different combinations, go for it, different eyes, etc. And it came up with some fantastically disgusting ideas. And it's just, it's great. And just quickly as well, you can see all these swollen on his shoulder here.
Yeah.
And then I saw that, I thought, oh, that's brilliant. And then for player feedback, I said to the tech artist, and I almost give him a heart attack whenever I talk to him. Don't know why. I just said to him, I want to see all this in geometry. I want to see it all deform. I want to see like a subsurface. So I want to see like liquid in there. Yeah? And he's going, ah! Right? And I said, oh, come on, do it. Yeah, okay. So then the final one. This, okay. This is the concepts for the different variations of colour. And also I wanted to keep true to his design. Okay? So now we're just going to go through into 3D, if we can find them. Yeah, get off. Oh God, where's it all gone? All right. Okay, well, there's one. Look at this. Oh. open with? Okay. No. Okay. So that was Tez, and then throughout of this one, it was just to show and illustrate the different processes. And what we did is, for an update, we put in the wireframe, the textures, and so on. And if you go onto our Kickstarter page, you've got him in there in 3D, so you can actually turn him around and have a look at him. Right. Okay. So those that haven't seen it, if I can't see it, there we go. So those that haven't seen it, this is our... Oops. Have we got audio?
No. Can you change it to speaker? I guess it's on headphones.
It should be on speaker because it's speaker.
Okay.
Try again. Try again.